Hi everyone. Today I was walking in my vegetable garden and I found an amazing vegetable. This is called a radish. Some of you may have eaten radish before. It's got quite a strong taste. Now a radish is very important because it is a root vegetable. Now if you remember when we learned about plants, the leaves of the plants absorb the sunlight and the roots go down in the ground and absorb the water and nutrients. Now this is a very special root vegetable. Root vegetables collect all the nutrients and food in their roots. Can you see how big the root is? And this is the part that we eat that is quite yummy. That is why it's called a root vegetable. Now, because I found this amazing radish, I decided to tell you a story, a very special story about the radish. So we have our radish. Now, radish gets its name from a Latin word, radis, which means root, which makes sense because we've just discussed that this is a root. So radis means root. Now, I want you all to remember that while we talk about this beautiful radish. So do you remember the etymology, the origin of the word? Radish is radis, is root. Now, about 1100 AD, some people were thinking, as they had thought before, even as long ago as 2,500 years ago in Babylon, that roots are very special. In fact, that numbers have roots. I thought only plants had roots. But no, they had imagined and realized that numbers could grow from roots. There was one special root, number root, that people were interested in, and that was the square root. Some of you may have heard of square roots before. Now, I'm going to hold up this card. Can you see it's got a little R on it, an R? That is to remind you that radish, radis, has a R, and root has a R. Isn't that interesting? Now I've looked at how a root and a radish are so similar, I want to tell you the story about a man named Leonardo. Now, I think you've all heard of Leonardo da Vinci, but this isn't the same Leonardo. This was Leonardo Pisano. Now, Pisano in Italian means that he came from the town of Pisa. There's something else from Pisa, isn't there? The Leaning Tower of Pisa, that's right. Well, Leonardo had a nickname, and that was Fibonacci. Now, that wasn't his name, and he never ever called himself Fibonacci, but quite a lot of other people did. Leonardo's father's name was Bonuccio, so some people think that Fibonacci was a shortened version of the Latin words Filius Bonacci, which means the son of Bonacci. But remember, he didn't use that name. But Leonardo was a great mathematician. And he did a lot of things that were very interesting. He was a very interesting man. We think, because it was quite a long time ago, that he was responsible for introducing the Arabic numbers, the ones that we heard about in the 5th grade lesson, to Europe. So he definitely loved maths. He also made an incredible sequence, a theorem of numbers, that is called Fibonacci's sequence, or Fibonacci's numbers. Remember, he didn't use that name himself, but that's what we know it as today. So he was very interesting and was definitely devoted to maths. One thing that he loved to do was explore roots. He wanted to find the roots of numbers. What would be the root of a number? So he started to look at roots, and like most mathematicians, he decided he needed a symbol, a way to represent this root of a number. So he decided to use a special symbol to show the square root of a number. Now, he knew that root, or radis, started with a R. So he started to use the symbol. It looks like a R, or a capital R, with a little X there. And he would write this letter, or the symbol, followed by a number. And whenever you saw this symbol and a number, it would mean find the square root of that number. You might have also seen this symbol used elsewhere. I've seen it in a pharmacy or two. But it was used by Fibonacci, Leonardo, to indicate the root of a number. Remember the R is for root, radish. So a root is quite like a radish after all. Now, Leonardo's symbol started to catch on because people were so interested in finding the roots of numbers. But they decided this was a little bit complicated to draw. Mathematicians, the people who study math, love to find shortcuts and quicker ways to do things, especially when they're working with big numbers. So they started to look at ways to simplify this. They started to look back at the lowercase r. And in about 1500, Christoph Rudolph, another mathematician, decided to simplify it even more. He created the radical sign. Now, can you see that this looks a little bit like a r? He's drawn a r very, very quickly. And radical, that sounds a bit like radish. Root. So whenever we saw the radical sign, we knew we had to find the root. That was almost the end of the development. We had this beautiful radical sign until another mathematician came along called René Descartes, who was born in France in 1596. Now, he loved geometry and making beautiful patterns and things, and he was also a philosopher. So in about the 1600s, he made a bit of a change. He was so fascinated by roots that he decided 500 years after Leonardo Fibonacci, he had made his symbol, that he was going to play around with it a little bit. He kept the symbol similar to this, but he made one change. He drew the line a little bit longer. So this is the radical symbol, the symbol for radical, radish, root. So whenever we see this symbol, we know we have to find the square root of that number. Now, we still use this symbol today. This beautiful symbol that started out as a radish, a radish, a root, and developed over time into our radical sign, which means find the root. So that is how a radish is like a square root. I hope you enjoyed that story.